Thank you to Ntokozo Khumalo for that reporting. Now, Cynthia Stimpel is Executive Committee member of Defend Our Democracy, joining us now. Cynthia, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it, and thank you for joining us here on Newzroom Afrika. Let's just talk about what your thoughts were when it comes to, yes, the budget postponement, but whether that in any way is actually a clear sign that our democracy is working, that people can contest things, and that you don't have to necessarily just accept the status quo. Or do you see it a totally different way as Defend Our Democracy?
We're seeing it in two parts. So the first is that that you can see it is working from the GNU perspective, that they were able to challenge it and then for the decision not to go ahead. But the other part, which is the sad part, tells us that the parties are not consulting with one another. They're not being collaborative. It means that one party, the stronger party now, is putting forward a proposal and it must be accepted by the broader society, and that is unfair. So from our side, we feel that there needs to be some maturity in around their political collaborative and consensual agreements, in that they discuss this first and then bring it forward to the rest of South Africa. So on the one hand, yes, it's strong that there could be an argument and to hold back, but the other part shows that there was a lack of them being able to discuss prior. And that for me is telling. And for us, the representatives as Defend Our Democracy, is that we need to see this political maturity. We're not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, there could be question marks as to whether indeed people weren't communicated to. And I'm not saying that they were and they weren't. I'm just wondering the question as well, because one of the people who are stakeholders within trying to put this budget together is actually from a different political party to the African National Congress. That, of course, being Mr. Sorpen, who is the Deputy Minister as well in National Treasury, Deputy Minister of Finance. Does this kind of just say that perhaps there was, I don't know, just a little bit of people wanting rather to show that they were fighting for democracy or fighting for change, as opposed to something that perhaps could have been discussed at an earlier stage?
We feel it should have been discussed at an earlier stage. There needs to be a consensus especially with the budget. We all know that the budget is tabled in February, so it's nothing new. And this preparation around the budget and the structure around the budget should have been discussed and agreed upon before going out and publicly stating it has to be now deferred and delayed for consensus. So for me, it means someone was, or a party was pushing ahead instead of looking at how best we can agree on the percentage, obviously, of the VAT and getting a final consensus. So yes, all this disagreement should be resolved beforehand, even if there was, and they should have also notified the various people, like journalists, who have already been prepared to relay all the decisions around the budget, and they didn't know until the 11th hour. And that, for me, was very unprofessional.
Yeah. What happens then if we don't have consensus on a way forward on the 12th of March? What does that do for our democracy?
I think it's a good sign. They need to go back and work at it until there is a consensus, and then bring that forward again to South Africa.
Yeah, because
the citizens.
Because if you just consider that this process should have been from the onset what they then should have done then, does this actually change the way we look at the GNU? We've had contestations of the Bella Act, of the Expropriation Act, and now the budget as well. Does this slow down South Africa's democracy moving forward, just because things may not necessarily move as quick as we'd like them in order to effect change?
Well, we've seen improvement in that there's more arguments and there's more challenges and there's more voices coming forward. And I think that's how a healthy democracy should be working.
Yeah, and how do we get the democracy that we've all been fighting for then? Because we can all say we've voted to have particular parties in play, but they're not in play singularly, right? Or singularly on their own. They're all mixed and really need to find this thing working. Is the strength of the GNU really in its numbers or in its leadership?
Well, I can't answer that question effectively. We've seen before that they have been able to come together on certain points. And then obviously, like the expropriation bill and now with the budget, that we're seeing that there are some challenges. So as long as they're still willing to go back to the drawing board and discuss issues and iron out any of the discrepancies that they have or the challenges that they have, that shows that the democracy is working. So the only hope we can have is to ensure that there should be some political maturity now, that people should be putting their shoulder to the wheel to discuss, collaborate, and come to some consensus, because we cannot go forward if we don't come to the consensus.
Yeah, it's going to be about that consensus, about collaboration, about consultation as well as we head towards the 12th of March. Cynthia Stimpel, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it as well this afternoon. Executive Committee member for Defend Our Democracy.